Welcome to the Outlier's Journey, where we'll explore the human stories of inspiring paths to success in the African American and Caribbean immigrant communities. My name is John Seaton, and I've always been fascinated with folks who manage to overcome adversity and somehow achieve success despite the odds. With these stories, I hope to enlighten and inspire others, especially those listening that may find themselves in a similar circumstance. So let's get started. The podcast today is a very special one. My guest today is considered in the mind of many in Cisco, dare I say, royalty. She's been with Cisco for 15 years and everyone in the New York City metro area knows her. But they may not know her story or her journey, and it's a fascinating one. It's one of pure determination and grit. Our guest today was born in Morningside Heights in Manhattan during a time when the neighborhood, and these are her words, was dark, dirty, and drug-infested. Her mother was an immigrant from the Dominican Republic. Like many young girls in her environment, she became a mother at a very early age and ended up on public assistance. But somehow, she broke out of that cycle of poverty and went from cleaning the Cisco New York City office to becoming the customer experience manager of the Cisco New York City office. So how'd she do it? How'd she break out of her circumstance? That's why I'm so excited to explore with Milagros Bussi, aka Millie, that story on today's podcast. So Millie, welcome to the program.
Well, John, thank you for having me.
All right, we're excited to explore your story because I think it'll be an inspiration for a bunch of folks. So, just to get started, I like to understand and like the folks who are listening to understand where you are today so we can contrast that with where you started out. So real quick, just tell us about, yourself, what your job position is, your family, and where you live.
So I've been with Cisco for 15 years. I'm the customer experience expert here. And I deal with all the customers that have to come here with their engagement and how the experience is held when they're here. I'm a single mom of a 30-year-old now.
Wow.
And I live in the Bronx currently.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you, and I ask all my guests, because this is about people who break out of the circumstance and become successful, but everybody has a different definition of success. So how do you define it?
Defining success has different tiers. But for me, I find that giving people joy nowadays and making people smile is success. If I can come across a person that's not feeling well and with everything that's happening in the world and make them feel at ease and just have them smile, even if that's a hug, that's a win. So that's success for me.
I love that definition. It's unique amongst the definitions that I've heard, but I think it's a great one. And I think as we hear the story, we'll understand where that comes from. I was hounding you for a while to tell your story. Why did you say yes?
Because in looking at my past and actually Googling myself, a couple of weeks ago, I found a written blog about me because I know that you have been hounding me. I said, you know what? It's time to re-engage and give an opportunity for others that don't think that this can be a doable thing because of where they are in their life right now. Just showcase my story in a granular way to inspire people.
Yeah.
Like me.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And that's the whole purpose for this podcast, is to be able to tell those stories that inspires folks who might find themselves in a similar circumstance. So can you talk a little bit about where you grew up and what that environment was like?
Where did I grow up? I grew up in the hood of Manhattan, Morningside Heights, 1981. Very dark, dirty, and a lot of drugs in this neighborhood.
So tell me about what it was like in the Duke Ellington buildings that you grew up in.
So Duke Ellington Trio was three buildings that were 75% abandoned. And the way to get an apartment in these buildings were to pay a super,
Mhm.
a certain amount of money. It could be $100 back then, because rent was like $95 a month when my mom moved in there. And you would pay these supers to open up one abandoned apartment. And if you lived in that apartment or squatted in that apartment for 30 days straight, it became your residence. We squatted for 30 days and it became our home.
So did you have like electricity and hot water or anything when you were squatting?
So no electricity because you were a squatter and you were illegally in the apartment.
Yeah.
Since it was abandoned, it was roach infested and rodent infested because you weren't allowed to bring in furniture because you was a squatter. So you were living on the floor with a mattress, sometimes just a quilt, one to put on the floor and one to cover yourself with. And we all slept together. So that kept us warm because there wasn't heat, there wasn't light. The water worked sometimes. And I have horror stories in that one.
So tell me a little bit about your family structure. You had your mom, right? Where was your mom born?
My mom was born in the Dominican Republic and migrated through, the river into Puerto Rico. And when she migrated to Puerto Rico, she had my brother. Then from Puerto Rico, she made her way to Manhattan, where I was born.
And what about your dad?
My dad, not sure when my mom met him, but migrated with my mom to Manhattan and then left us when I was about 3. He was heavy into selling drugs and got into a lot of trouble.
Yep.
So in running away from the authorities, he decided to go back to where my mother was born because my father is Italian. So he migrated back to Dominican Republic, and I am guessing that he had family there, but I don't know much about him. So
now, what was your mother's opinion of education? Did she value that for you?
So immigrant parents speak highly and encourage their children to go to school because they see the benefit of having an education and being able to get out of poverty. And, it was my mom's dream that I'll be the first one to at least graduate from high school.
So school was important. Your mom encouraged you to go to school, but there was also some additional help you had from some programs within school, right? So can you tell me a little bit about that?
So school was not only instrumental, but it was also beneficial, being that there was not much money in the house. School opened the door to having a meal in the morning, breakfast. So that was important. You have to make it for breakfast. You definitely had lunch. Sometimes the lady that my mom was very good friend with in the lunch would send us home food for dinner because times were tough. And in the school system, we had different type of programs that allowed us to have something to do after school. And in those programs as well, you would get like snacks and learn different sports or tutoring for anything that you thought necessary to continue in a good path.
So that's interesting. So school is actually a lifeline in terms of meals because you can't learn if you're hungry. A lot of people take it for granted that everyone has access to food, which what you're telling me isn't the case, right? So that was an important piece of the puzzle. Wow. Tell me about what happened between 6th and 12th grade. There was a program that you entered, which I think was a pretty interesting program.
So I was in the 6th grade and one of the first class to graduate from PS 165. And in that, we were nominated for a program which we won and got a scholarship through the I Have a Dream program. And in this program, what it did was that it took a married couple, Robert Wolf and Sandra Wolf, to take us from sixth grade all the way through high school and check on us and give us different tools so that we were able to see the future of going to college.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense?
Yeah, yeah. It gave you a vision of what's possible, right, with college.
Correct.
So I did some Googling on how I Have a Dream Foundation. It still exists. I don't know if you're aware. They're still around.
Mhm.
They've been around for about 40 years. They say, this is what's on their website, to educate, empower, and achieve. They provide individualized social, emotional, and academic support to young people called dreamers from under-resourced communities from kindergarten all the way through college, all with guaranteed tuition support. And then the belief is that when given equal access to the resources they need to succeed, all children can ignite their innate potential and achieve their dreams. That sounds like a pretty good program. So was it was all that even when you were in it in terms of its goals?
It was that. But it was more than that because it was mentoring yet family.
Yeah.
And they made you believe
Mm-hmm.
when there was no belief that you can achieve these life challenging traumatic
Right.
experience and come out of it in a positive way. It was a life changing 4 years that they dedicated to me and a group of young people. Although at the fourth year, I kind of fell off the wagon.
Yeah, so we'll get to that. So would you say that if you weren't in this program, that things may have gone differently for you?
I think it would have gone a lot different for me because through this program and mentors and tutors and social workers that used to come to your house and make sure that you were going to school and doing what you had to do, I was struggling with, my mom and substance abuse.
Yeah.
So if it hadn't been for them, I probably wouldn't have made it as far as I have.
And that's what I always like to point out in a lot of the stories and the folks that I talk to. There's usually an individual or there's a program that they were a part of that if it wasn't for that program, things would have turned out a whole lot different. So I have a dreamfoundation.org seems to be the program that, without that, things might have been different for you. You started to mention that you got all the way up to, I'll say, the 9th inning of the program, then something happened. What happened?
Life happened. Being that I was in a home that had taken a turn with my mom getting into drugs and a different lifestyle that was not nurturing, I started hanging out with the wrong crowd. And in doing that, I started maturing in ways that would make me an adult faster.
Mm-hmm.
And I became a parent at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
And in becoming a parent at a young age, I couldn't continue in the path that the I Have a Dream has set me up for because schools weren't taking pregnant teens.
Right.
I had to find a way to continue school, which I'm glad that they had alternative high schools back then. So I enrolled in that until I had my son. And they helped also guide, a different path and led us to believe that even as a young parent, you can still succeed. So that was instrumental to me as well.
So you were able at least to go to an alternative high school and then get your GED, right?
Correct.
But then when your son was 2 and you were 19, your mom passed, right?
Correct. In the struggles with my mom and drug addiction, she became ill with lung cancer. And in going through those struggles and learning about life and having a young child, it was just another challenge.
Yeah, a whole
I
new set
can't
of
even.
a whole new set of challenges, right? So you had your living situation that you had, obviously. You had a program that was there to lift you up out of that. The streets kind of are overwhelming and attractive, right? So with that, you then had your son, and then to compound that, your mother had continued with her struggles. And so when you look at a path or a journey, it's like, wow, one step forward, couple steps back. That must be how it felt. Is that right?
It did.
Yeah. So it's like, what do I do now? So this is the part of the movie, right? If this were a movie, everyone's sitting in their chairs as well, like, Millie's got her GED. That's cool. But she's got a 2-year-old son. Were you working at the time?
No, I was following the steps of my mom, and I was on public
Public
assistance.
assistance, right? So when you look at the circumstance, right? You got your GED, 2-year-old son. Your mom passes on public assistance. What's the future? And how do you recover from where you are right now? So that's what I'm curious about. And I'm sure people who are listening are curious about. You told me a story about being in your apartment, not knowing how you were going to feed your child, but there was an angel of sorts who lived nearby, right? Tell me a little bit about that.
So, and it's funny. I feel like there's so many angels around us. Yes. So when my mom passed away and the bills piled up and being on public assistance, which whoever grew up in poverty and was ever in public assistance knows that it was never enough. I was struggling with having to feed my son, buy milk, Similac, have Pampers, clothe him, feed myself, pay the bills. So in the building, we have elders that I grew up with their children, and they knew me. So every day from when my son was born, because there were times where I had to go to the store, literally steal milk for him to have milk for the day. There was this one of my best friends, which we're still best friends, and she still lives in the building. Her stepdad would every day make sure that when he came from work, I had 1 can of Similac and enough Pampers to last me at least for 2 days, because everybody that has a kid knows how much Pampers we go through. So every single day for the first 3 to 6 months, he would knock on my door, and I already knew what it was, and he would leave a bag hanging on the door of Similac, Pampers, sometimes bread, and some coconuts for me.
That's fantastic, right? It's amazing how people will step up and help others when they see people in need. And I think that was the first, I don't even know what the saying is, angel under your wings to help you, get out of the depths of where you were. Tell me how and when your mindset changed that says that, okay, I need to do something different to get out of the situation.
My mindset changed when I put my son in Head Start. I knew that he had, he was in a class that, like my mom felt, where, he was fed, he was taken care of, and he was safe. That's when my mindset changed to, I need to do something. Life can't be this hard. I can do better. And, it's time for me to get a job.
So you didn't want
And
to see public assistance as a long-term plan. Okay. So you said, okay, I got to do something different. What was your first step? You told me about, you actually took classes in etiquette, things like that. What was that like? And where'd you find those classes?
so I've always been intrigued with people that speak a certain way. Well, back then to me, speak a certain way was proper, educated, had these really nice clothes, and the women dressed so nicely, smelled well, had the jewelry and, the suits. And people that were always happy is what it looked like to me. And I started asking questions like, how do you obtain these positions or these jobs? And, what do you do? And in speaking to people, and when you learn that people that make money want to help you make money, you learn things. And one of the things that I learned from a few people were that you needed to articulate yourself in a certain way and also comport yourself in a unique way when you're around people, especially if you're in a setting where you're eating with a group of professionals. So one of the things that I did was that I found a class on etiquette and how to sit and eat, and the fork and the knife, and how to, the napkin when you go out on these professional dinners or lunches. So that was one of the things I did. I also took classes on anger management because I was, and sometimes still a little bit, defensive. Mm-hmm. So I'm very reactive. Instead of thinking emotionally, taking the emotions out of certain things, I'm very reactive and very defensive when people used to tell me things that were for my own well-being.
Right, but you probably, based on the trauma you had growing up, it was probably a natural response, right? So you had to figure out how to deal with that. You also told me that you were volunteering that you were doing some work with some elders that was influential as well.
Yes. So there was an old couple that used to pass by my building every day that were from the old folks home, the oak tree, which is still actually there. And they saw me and they would talk to me like, oh, what's your name? And I would talk to them. And through that, they told me about a volunteer opportunity in the old folks home to, be able to be a companion for them and talk to them and just learn. The volunteering with the old folks was inspiring. It kind of gave you a little glimpse of their history and where I could be. Yeah. And the best part about that engagement with this couple was they taught me things about myself, how to see things differently. And I felt like part of their family. They even gave me my first pearls that weren't real pearls, but they were so happy to give me those pearls. And that was another kind of life-changing. It was life-changing because in looking at the people that I wanted to be like, have a job like, they always wore pearl. Yeah. So it was like a big thing.
The part of the story where it really gets interesting now is, so you've gone to etiquette class, you have a relationship with some elders, having great conversations. She's giving you a set of pearls. You start looking for a job with benefits. Tell me about that journey.
Once my son was in school and I was tired of living in poverty, I started looking at the workforce and what can I get into that has benefits. And back then, and yet still, the way to go was to find a job that had benefits and also a union. And that was easy to get into with the education that I had because that was important. So I started looking at cleaning jobs. I found a job with a cleaning company, BMS, Building Maintenance Services. Mm-hmm. And that's how I started into the work.
So being at BMS, what offices were you cleaning?
So working in BMS, I started as a floater and I worked in many, many offices, many buildings. But in that, I landed a steady contract at Cisco.
Wow. Okay.
And within Cisco is where I can say my life totally changed when I found these really, really interesting, cool people that I would have never thought, had I not sat down and spoken with them, that they really wanted to help.
So how did that even start, to have that first conversation with someone? I would imagine that, how do I say this? I don't even want to be politically correct. Most corporate jobs that you go into, the cleaning people would be viewed as invisible to the folks working there. So how did you break through that fact?
I just started to talk to people. And in conversing with a few people, they were very instrumental in mentoring me on where do I want to go? Where do I see myself? And in doing that, I found opportunities that I was afraid to take, and I let a few go. So I had like the Michael Cortons of the world, and he would see me every day, and I wasn't invisible to him. I had the Harley Browns of the world that would talk to me every day, and I wasn't invisible to him.
Yeah.
And then we had the angel, Deborah Sarba, who I was definitely not invisible to.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just gravitate to these people, see how they're doing every day, making sure that their day was great, because they would feed me information on what I had to do to possibly, because they saw things in me that I didn't see in later on, change my course into being more in the corporate world. Because when you think about corporate world, you do not think about like a receptionist or a customer experience person like I am now.
Right.
You think about the technicals, let me build a computer, or, more of let me sell something. And there's a quota to that it's millions of dollars, I now know. Yeah, so I started networking. And in networking, I found opportunities that I let go at the beginning.
What was the first opportunity you found out about at Cisco, and how did you hear about it?
So the first opportunity actually is where I am now, a customer experience expert, but it was an assistant to the engagement manager. And I didn't think that I qualified for that, because when you look at the verbiage and the description of the job, there was no way that I can obtain all this certificates and years of college. I got a GED, and I got a couple credits in college, but you need a bachelor's to do what I do now. But do you really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of jobs are defined, they say they require college degrees, but they actually don't. And so then people are afraid to apply to them. So what got you over that hump?
Well, first, I will have these meetings with Hartley Brown or Michael Corton, and I would talk to them about, what do you do? And how did you get where you are? And how can a person that would want to be in a position like you guys, how do you get there without, having these degrees or these credentials and the wording that they put, these experiences and for customers and stuff like that.
And logistics.
Yeah, my favorite word, logistics. I'm like, why can't they just say details? Because when you're not around a certain way of speaking and you're always in the hood, your vocabulary only carries you for a certain,
Right. We don't use logistics in the hood.
Correct. So, I had to get myself acquainted with the new world. And in that, and in speaking to Deborah and the people that work here, I find myself intrigued and being more open to, I can do this. This is meant for me. But that one opportunity presented itself, and I backed out, and I gave it to a co-worker's daughter because I felt that she had the credentials and she knew what she was doing in an office environment because she had been doing this like for years. And when I told the people that were coaching me on where I should be and what I can do more than what I thought I could in the office world, they were so mad at me, especially the Brown.
Yeah.
What do you mean you let it go? No, you're taking this job and you're gonna, pull through. And they just went full force in helping me to the next level. So all this to say, another opportunity popped up.
Mm-hmm.
When that opportunity popped up and Mr. Brown said, you're taking this job and you're going to go talk to Deborah because Deborah is cool, I did so. I went in my uniform, my cleaning uniform, and I said, you know what, let me go have a conversation with her. And I sat down and I already knew what she needed, and she was so in desperate need of help. And I sat there and I told her, hey, I guaranteed her that I could make her life better
Mm-hmm.
if she hired me. And I can definitely do exactly what she needed me to do, which would be to be her assistant, and prepare documents and take care of customers, because I knew how to do that already.
Right.
I was already doing that in another capacity. So in telling her that and guaranteeing her that, she actually cried.
Wow.
And in her cry, I knew that I was where I was supposed to be.
Yeah, and you had a real shot. Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
But with that, she gave me homework. And it wasn't easy. And she didn't hand anything to me.
Mm-hmm.
She made me stronger. And I earned where I am today.
Yeah. So this is the part of the movie, right, where Rocky is preparing for his fight. He's beating on the in the locker room with the meat. He's running up the stairs, getting his cardio up on the steps of that Philly building. The music's playing. So Deb's giving you the challenge. Come back on Monday, prepared for a corporate interview. So you had to, that was your Rocky moment of having to be prepared. So what was that like? Did you even have a dress for Monday?
I didn't. I had to go shopping with money that I didn't have. But I know that I was given some cash to be able to buy a suit, because I knew that you had to come in a suit. And of course, I wore the pearls that the, elderly couple.
Full circle. Yep.
I did my hair. I transformed into the person that I wanted to be. And I came in confident. And when I came in, nobody recognized me. It was like, whoa, is that you?
So in a sense, it's almost ironic. You became invisible because people didn't see you the way they saw you before. They knew you a certain way. And now you come in all decked out. And that's amazing. So how'd the interview go?
The interview went great. Needless to say, I started the job.
Yep.
But it was a 22 people interview.
What do you mean? You had to interview with 22 people?
I did. Some of them were grouped. Some of them were not. I was given tools to do a business plan, which I didn't even know what that was. But thanks to Hartley Brown, I made one, and I still have that, and I still use that. Mm-hmm. It's very unique. And at the end of it, I used to fight with the people that were actually giving me the interview, because they would challenge me about why should they say yes to me when I didn't have the credentials, some of them.
Right.
And I said, well, if I do not get this job, do you understand that I'll be the one training the person to get this job? Because I have already been training for it and know it well. And in that, I kind of aced the interview.
All right. So you're hired, which is fantastic news. So what was it like when you were told you got the job? You remember where you were?
Actually, I don't.
That's okay.
But I know that when I came in and I got the offer and I saw the amount of offer that I got and everything that came with that, that was like a true, I've made it.
Yeah. So that's the peak, right? We're back on the journey, which is a roller coaster. So you are now at the peak. What happens the first 2 weeks you're actually in the job? Were you happy every day, skipping the work, confident in what you had to do? Tell me about that.
So, yeah. No. I was happy that I got the job. I was happy of the amount of money I was going to make and the offer, but I didn't know what that entailed until I actually walked into the office on my first date, and I had to go see IT and pick up a laptop. And as simple as that may sound to many that have worked in the corporate world, it was not that simple to me. I've always used a desktop, and a desktop is totally different from a laptop. So I am so grateful for Julio because when he gave me that laptop, I took it and, I smiled, and then I turned around with tears in my eyes, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? He's like, Millie, what do you mean? And I'm like, I've never used a laptop. And when he saw the tears coming down my eyes, he was so helpful and so patient and so dedicated to helping me, learn how to use a laptop, which took 2 weeks. And 2 weeks of probably crying every day, trying to learn the lingo, the Cisco lingo, and trying to learn this new technology. But, nothing deters me from getting to a place that I want to be.
That had to have been frightening. But you've been in the job now how long?
15 years.
So what's it been like for those 15 years? What's the environment like?
A few changes here and there, but it's been actually magnificent. I am the only Millie globally. So anything that anybody needs at Pen 1, one pen, now Pen 1,
Yep.
I am the go-to for the experience.
And I've got to say, from personal experience, you are my go-to whenever I have to bring customers to New York. And I'm confident that things will go well when you're there, which is one of the reasons I was so fascinated with your story and understanding it. So I think I know the answer to this, but what are you most passionate about in your role?
It's my gift. It's what we spoke about at the beginning, bringing joy to people. That is it. If you walk into this office and you're not feeling yourself and you need anything, I think that bringing joy, talking to someone, giving them a hug. I hug everybody that walks in this office. Just telling them good morning, letting them know that they're being seen, that they're not invisible, like I may have thought I was one time. That is what I do here.
Well, it's a fascinating story, Millie. I thank you for telling it. We're almost done. So one of the things that I like to do is to reflect back, because I think the important part about anybody's journey is the turning points and those who have influenced it. So I'd like to do a little exercise on reflecting on what were those individuals and or organizations and or situations that may had a major influence on your life. And obviously your mom coming to this country, her focus on education, the fact that you were nominated and participated in the I Have a Dream Foundation, I think was huge. Your friendly neighbor who supported you when you had a son and brought you those diapers and that milk. The YMCA community programs, those conversations with the elders, their objective vision of what was possible, and the pearls, I call them the predictive pearls, that predicted the situation in which and manifested the situation in which you would need them. Deborah, the hiring manager, if it wasn't for her, and you got to give it up to Michael Corton and Hartley Brown, who helped you visualize and push, right? People sometimes need a little nudge and push to get where they are and be successful. Think I'm missing anything there? Does that cover the major bases?
I think you covered the major bases.
Final question. What advice would you give your younger self or young folks who find themselves in a similar circumstance?
For me, the advice that I would give my younger self would be, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There are people that care. Do not give up. Keep going. Because what has been my strength is that when all else fails and you fail miserably, there's only up. And you must continue to try to go up. For the young people that are out there and are listening to me, find someone to talk to. People want to hear you. People are listening. People want to help. If you go to a person and they do not want to help you, they're not the people that you want to be around. You have to surround yourself with people that want to be good for you. I think that people take that for granted and they take the easy way out. And that is not the way to go. It's hard.
Yeah.
It will be hard.
Yeah.
But it only gets better.
Yeah, it requires work. A lot of internal determination and grit to make that happen. Those are fantastic words, Millie. I got to say, thank you for telling your story. I think a lot of people will benefit from it. What I'm learning from all these inspiring stories is that none of these journeys are traveled alone, and you certainly show that. There's a lot of support along the way, whether it be with individuals, organizations, sometimes a little bit of luck, right? You ended up at Cisco. I think that was lucky. We talk about pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, but I don't believe in that. I don't think it can be done alone. It requires the persistence and tenacity of individuals like you who want to succeed. So for those of you out there, thanks for listening. And I hope you were able to get something out of this conversation with Millie that you can use in your life or inspire you to help someone else in theirs. So if you like what you heard, please subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with someone who you think might benefit. So thanks again for listening. And thank you again, Millie, for participating in today's program.
Thank you for having me.
All right.